frame of the 4x5 negative. So we're ready to do our scan now, but just to tell you what some of these other things are, we have some different stuff here like unsharp mask and grain reduction and color restoration. I wouldn't ever use any of these. These are not very good. They're sort of like auto tools to kind of help you sharpen your image and get rid of dust and things like that, but they do a really bad job. Unsharp mask is okay to leave on if you leave it at low, but otherwise you could leave it off and then just do your sharpening afterwards in Photoshop. I think it's okay to leave it low, to give it a little bit of unsharp mask just to account for some of the loss in quality in the scanning process. But leaving it off entirely is not that big of a deal. You just have to do a little bit more sharpening in Photoshop later. I'm gonna leave it on for right now.
Do we do it in Photoshop or Lightroom?
It's up to you. You can do it in either.
Okay.
So if you were in my 31 class, you're probably more familiar with Lightroom.
Yeah.
So you can import these TIFFs into Lightroom and work with them there, and then just export again. I usually do a combination of things. So primarily I work in Photoshop with these 4x5s, but since I've started using Lightroom more and more, there's some tools I like better in Lightroom than in Photoshop. Lightroom's more of a raw processor, so like raw file processor, so it makes a whole lot more sense to, as a digital workflow, if you're shooting on a digital camera, to work in Lightroom. But I think the Basics tab in Lightroom, where you have the ability to break out your shadows and whites and blacks and highlights, is a really functional, or a really helpful tool, especially with dealing with black and white. That gives you a little more control than some of the tools in Photoshop do. There's ways to do it in Photoshop too. It just requires having a little bit more of a production workflow and like dealing with layers and things like that. And I find it faster and usually a better result to go to